everybody.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
Welcome.
welcome to the panel.
Thank you all so much for coming. Today, our panel is going to be Cute J Fashion for Plus Size, a breakdown of who, what, and where to buy. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce our hosts for today.
Hi, everybody. So, my name is Susie, and I am a J Fashion enthusiast. I absolutely love wearing J Fashion, as you can probably tell. I am mostly into Lolita fashion and Fairy K with just a little bit of Decora fashion as well. I am a plus size J Fashion wearer. I'm also very tall. I'm 5'11", and so that is been, something that I have learned to kind of work a lot with when styling and shopping and buying J fashion. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to participate today, to kind of bring that tips and tricks that I've learned over the years to you guys.
Yeah, and I'm Abby, or at Toy Cyborg on most social media platforms. I'm one of Susie's friends. She's over here, and she asked me to be part of this panel as I'm also a plus size J fashionista. I've only been in the fashion for maybe about, I want to say, like 3 years now, but I have done a lot of research and stuff like that, and I'm now a mod of my community and stuff like that. So I'm here to help you all get to know J fashion.
Awesome. Thank you all both so much for introducing yourselves. My name is Tiffany, and I'm here on behalf of OkashiCon. I'm part of the J Fashion Committee, and it's my responsibility to make sure that we are reaching out to our community, and we're bringing programming, and we're bringing events that interest all of you and that are useful for all of you as well. So we hope that this panel is super, super helpful. I myself have been into J fashion probably like over a decade or so now. I like to do Lolita mostly, but I've also branched out into many other different styles. So today I'm wearing CPK, and I'm excited to show that yes, it does exist. I'm also plus size and have been for the entirety of the time that I have been wearing J fashion, even when sometimes some things will fit on the waist, I'm always having trouble up top. So I'm really excited to share my tips and tricks regarding some of the lesser known or maybe not as often worn J fashion today. So thank you all so much for coming and for listening. Let's get started.
Awesome. So we have prepared quite a bit of information for you guys today. We're going to break down kind of who, in terms of what brands, what specific cuts to look out for, what specific dresses to look out for, or items to look out for, and then of course where to buy them and some tips for that. So we'll cover a little bit about the different silhouettes or the different categories that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about where to purchase each of these items, so brands for each category, things to watch out for when buying within the brand. We're going to talk about how to purchase for your body online, where to get good reference info, all that good information. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about modifications, things that you can do without permanently altering the dress or the garment, and things that you can do with permanent alterations to make things actually fit you a little bit better. And then last but not least, we have a little bonus for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about some photo tips on how to take J fashion photos. So this first slide, we wanted to really just reassure everyone that you too can wear J fashion. One of the things that my journey into J fashion has taught me is that, it's really for anybody. Anybody can wear J fashion. If you like it, you can wear it. So we want to be as encouraging as possible to everybody who's watching this today or watching this later, that it is entirely possible to find things that are going to fit you, that you're going to love, that you're going to be able to wear, and we want to help you out with that.
Yeah, and so as Susie was saying, anyone could do J fashion. One of my biggest precursors of not getting into the fashion was because I was plus size, and it wasn't until that I actually got into J fashion and started wearing it that I found out hey, I could wear this fashion and stuff like that. And then it was even from like local comms, like, you know, being like, hey, there are plus size options. It's not, you don't always have to get these certain stuff. And it was just really helpful. And I was really discouraged in the beginning, but it really has helped me a lot that I can now know I can wear it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like sometimes there is this idea or this stigma that, especially concerning Lolita or some of the girlier fashions, that only certain body types can wear it. And having been in the fashion community for a while, I've definitely watched, as we'll get into later in the panel, so much evolve and change over time. And it's really just a matter of knowing where to look and where to buy, and relying on your community and the people around you to learn that there are so many options for you, and they're in so many different styles, and you'll definitely find a way to express yourself regardless of whatever you'd like to do with your body shape or size or whatnot. So I hope you can learn a lot from this panel.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just sitting here nodding my head over and over, like, yes, 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 all of that. So, you know, sit back, relax, and hopefully learn a thing or two about plus size for J Fashion. So, first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about the different categories that we're going to talk about today. So, if you are familiar with J Fashion, you know that there are a lot of substyles. There are so many different ways that you can wear J Fashion. And so it was really difficult for us to kind of narrow it down into something that was, you know, condensable into one panel. So what we decided to do is we decided to narrow it down by silhouette. So we're going to first start and talk about Lolita, which has a very distinctive, very large triangular silhouette. So as you can see on screen, its distinction there is usually like very poofy, whether it's A-line or cupcake shape. It's got to have that poof with it that defines the silhouette, that defines the fashion. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the silhouettes that are a little less exaggerated triangle. So that would be kind of Decora, Fairy Kay, and similar silhouettes that fall into still a triangular shape that we're looking for, but a little less exaggerated, a little more narrow. And then last but not least, we'll talk about CPK, we'll talk about Mori and Otome, which fall into more of a rectangular silhouette or shape. Now, one thing I want to point out before I move on to the next slide is that we are classifying these by their general silhouettes, and we are definitely not trying to say that, for example, Decora and Fairy Kay are the same thing and should be styled the exact same way, because that is absolutely not true. But we wanted to, like I said, break them down into different categories so it would be a little bit easier to talk about. So just keep that in mind as we talk about the different places to buy. Sometimes some brands are good for one type of substyle, some brands might be good for another type of substyle, and we'll try to point that out as we go along. But definitely, you know, the biggest thing about J Fashion is just to search, do your research, spend lots of time lurking online, doing your window shopping online to see what you like and what fits within the fashion that you're trying to achieve. So first and foremost, my favorite substyle, we're going to talk about Lolita and related silhouettes. So we're going to talk about the brands that fit into this Lolita category. Now, of course, we cannot talk about Lolita fashion without talking about the big three brands. So first up, Angelic Pretty, which happens to be my favorite brand. One of the things that I love about Angelic Pretty for plus size individuals is that a lot of people assume that just because it's AP, it's going to be teeny tiny and it's not going to fit someone who is plus size. And I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely not the case. Now, of course, this brand does have its maximums. So there are not going to be, you know, as many dresses that go above, say, 120 centimeter bust. However, they are out there and they do exist. So one of the things that you want to look out for when we're looking for Angelic Pretty dresses is that you want to look for full back shirring, which is going to be typically 108 to 110 centimeters if it's newer than 2015. The ones that are older than 2015 actually tend to be smaller. Over the years, Angelic Pretty has really kind of sized up a little bit with their shirring. So you want to look for stuff that is going to be on the newer side of the spectrum. You also want to look out for things like special sets. When they release special sets, most of the time they are going to be fully back shirred. Not all of the time. So again, always look at those reference photos, but generally speaking, they're going to be fully back shirred and fit that larger measurement. If you are ever in doubt about any Angelic Pretty piece, because it is so popular, you're going to be able to find it on Low Library. So you're going to be able to find the accurate measurements there. So if you're ever curious about, will this particular dress fit me, head over to Low Library and you're going to find some measurements there. And that's going to give you a basis on whether or not that's going to fit you. Last but not least, got to talk about leg wear. With Angelic Pretty especially, it's kind of hit or miss. One of the things that I've personally experienced is that the tights, they can be kind of stretchy horizontally, but they're very short because they're not intended for people who are tall. So while I've been able to fit them horizontally across my legs, I've had a lot of difficulty with them vertically. So that is something that you really want to watch out for with Angelic Pretty tights, especially. OTKs and socks, general rule of thumb is for the most part, they're going to be, generally friendly, depending on the type of embroidery that we have. And one thing that I'll note is that anytime you see OTKs, regardless of brand, if they have that embroidery on them, so they're kind of like embroidered with some kind of logo or some kind of image, if it's wrapping around the leg horizontally, it's not going to stretch horizontally, right? Because of the way that that is threaded, it's not going to stretch as much horizontally. So you want to make sure that you look out for the design of the OTK itself. Anybody else have anything to add about Angelic Pretty? I know this is one of your favorite brands, Abby.
It's my favorite brand, but a lot of it doesn't fit me, so I have to alter. So that'll be a different slide.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to point out is for most of the slides, we've tried to give you some examples of different dresses and their bust measurements. So we have 3 on slide right now. Please make sure that whenever you're looking at measurements, and we'll talk about this when we talk about purchasing, that your actual body measurements are 2 to 3 centimeters below that maximum for the best fit. So you can actually breathe, because you want to be able to breathe while you're wearing J Fashion. Trust me, that is definitely a plus.
I did see someone in the chat asking how to pronounce Lolaberry, so that is up for debate. A lot of people pronounce it different ways, so I think that's really funny. When we first met up, we definitely pronounced it in different ways, and so it's whatever floats your boat, as long as you know where to go, which it's now at the bottom of the Twitch stream screen, so you can hop over there after this to find some measurements that'll fit you.
Yeah, I've always been of the boat to say Low Library just because library is in it. And so for me, I'm thinking like the word library. But,
I think Lolita, so Lolibrary, but I don't know.
It's interesting, the way that all of that can be interpreted. But I love that we kind of represent the best of both sides, which, that's what this is all about, right?
Yes.
So the next brand that we want to talk about is kind of a 2-for-1. So we're going to talk about Baby the Starshine Bright and Alice and the Pirates. So they're actually the same brand, overarching brand. They're just kind of 2 different labels within the same brand. So if you ever notice, they get sold at, they're sold at the same store. A lot of times they have very similar like cuts and things like that, and similar elements to them, and that's why it's because they are actually the same brand. They're just 2 different labels. Baby the Starshine Bright tends to be a little more on the sweet side, whereas Alice and the Pirates, the concept is more, what if Alice ran away or went away with a bunch of pirates. So it tends to be a little more on the mature side of things. So for this brand, one of the things that you want to look out for, especially with Baby, is that they offer 2 versions of most of their JSKs. So they're going to have a JSK Style 1 and a JSK Style 2. And JSK, if you're not familiar with that term, simply just means jumper skirt, which is the type of dresses that have the straps like this, like are shown in the picture. So with this one, the JSK2 is fully back shirred usually. It's very rare that I've ever seen it where it's not fully back shirred. In some cases, I've actually seen it completely fully shirred all the way around, like the image that we have all the way on the left side of the screen, the one that is Kumiya Chan's
Glittery Milky Way, or no, that's Kumiya-chan's
Marine Island. That's
Marine Island. That's right.
That's Marine Island. See, even, yeah. And I see Lauren posted in the chat if Marine Island wasn't so expensive. Yeah, that's the thing with any Lolita, right? Especially the more popular ones. They do tend to be a little on the pricey side. But, you know, sometimes for me, it's worth it. So for this one, it is completely shirred all the way around. So these are things to look out for the JSK Style 2. That being said, the JSK Style 2 a lot of times will be the baby doll style bodice, which will be very, very tiny. I like to call it micro bodice. And Lauren just posted that in the chat too, micro bodice. So the bodice is like about this big. And I'm not even exaggerating. They are very, 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 very small. And it's intended to be like a baby doll style dress. And it can be really tempting for someone to look at the measurements of that and say, wow, you know, these measurements fit me. They're going to stretch all the way around. So horizontally, it's going to be great. But the other thing you got to think about is you got to think about the vertical size. So you got to think about the actual size of the bodice as it travels vertically around the bust and how much room you're going to need there, especially if you're on the larger side in the chest area. You may need more room vertically to cover all the way around. So this is something that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're looking at the actual cut of the dress. Again, look for completely full shirring. So not just the completely full back shirring, but the full shirring all the way around the entire dress. Those are going to be very accommodating, especially from this brand. That being said, their leg wear is kind of notorious for not being very plus size friendly. One of the most iconic socks that you see in Lolita fashion is those baby lace socks. And let me tell you, they are not plus friendly at all. They are very, very, very small. Mostly because of the way that they are made. Again, we were talking about the embroidery that goes all the way around the leg. That style of sock is generally not going to be as accommodating because of the way that it's made. With Alice, most of the plus size is going to be that high-waisted cut that we're talking about. So that's something to take kind of with a grain of salt. Always want to make sure that you're looking at not just the size of the garment, but also the actual way that it's going to fit you, the actual cut of it. One thing I will point out about Alice is that they do offer some men's sizing, especially in blouses and pants and things like that. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is that if you have a curvier body, it may be bigger, but it is tailored in a different way. It's a little more slimmer fit, and it's not necessarily tailored the same way as it would around curves. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is that although it is bigger, it may not be tailored the same as a woman's garment. So again, going back to that fit and making sure that, you know, it's not only going to fit you measurement wise, but it's also going to fit you the way that everything is cut on your body. Next up, to round out the big three, we have, now I do not speak French, y'all, so please forgive me. I'm going to butcher every single French anything in this entire panel. So we have Metamorphose Temp de Fil. I just call it Meta, so I'm just going to call it Meta. Metamorphose, let me tell you, they are killing it right now with the plus size game. So not only do they have generally plus size friendly garments, so a lot of their JSKs and dresses tend to be a little more on the plus size side or plus friendly side anyways. Now they have a whole line that they're starting of actual like plus size garments. And I can tell you from experience, I've owned one, I've worn one firsthand. Not only is it going to be plus size in terms of the horizontal measurements, but they did add to the length of the bodice, they did add to the length of the skirt. So it's actually going to fit you really nicely if you fit within those measurements. And those measurements are huge. I want to say the max measurements on some of them is somewhere like around 150 centimeters.
The newest one is 150, yeah.
Yeah, they're absolutely amazing. So that's one thing to look out for if you are in that range of size. That Meta has been, this is what, their third or fourth plus size release, and the last couple of releases that they've had a plus size option along with it. So this is something that I would imagine is going to continue since it seems to be killing it for them. So this is something that I definitely recommend to check out when it comes to plus size options. The other thing that you want to look for with Meta is full back shirring. Again, theirs tend to be very plus friendly as is anyways. I know a lot of them go up to, they're definitely over 110 centimeters. I want to say some of them even go up into 120 range, just depending on the cut. And then look for their legwear as well, because their legwear does tend to be a little more plus friendly. Like Meta really knows what's up when it comes to plus size friendly garments. Yes. And then we would be entirely remiss. We cannot miss out on talking about Triple Fortune, because Triple Fortune, when we talk about plus size Lolita, Triple Fortune goes hand in hand with plus size Lolita. From the beginning, they have been very plus size, very tall friendly. All of their skirts are fully shirred. They tend to be on the longer side. Many of them go up to 150 centimeters waist. Like, that is amazing. It's so great that they've been offering this from the beginning. And it's not just, a plus size version of an existing garment. It is just the way that they make them. Most of their OPs are going to be fully shirred. Most of their JSKs, I think there's only ever been like one or two that I've ever seen that are not fully back shirred at minimum. And then one of my favorite things is the corsets. The corsets have the open sizing from both sides. So as you can see in the picture, you've got the lacing on the sides, which really makes it a nice fit so you can adjust it. You don't just have that giant, that giant gape in the back, that you've got your two sides that you can adjust that fit. And they tend to also have more fabric with them. So one of the things that you notice is as you tend to stretch a garment, especially if it is shirred, you kind of lose a little bit of the poof because you're stretching the garment. And so you lose a little bit of that ruching or the ruffling that happens when the garment is shirred. Not with Triple Fortune. Let me tell you, with Triple Fortune, they have maximum poof potential. They have so much fabric in their skirts. I actually had the opportunity one time to model for them at Paradiso, and I can tell you every single garment that they put us in was absolutely lovely, first and foremost, and entirely plus friendly. I mean, it was probably one of the most comfortable Lolita outfits that I've ever worn, and it was for a fashion show.
I do want to add something here that we had talked previously about another time. And Susie, if you want to just take a moment to mention the experience of shopping for Lolita and having the pressure of looking up sizes versus not having that pressure. Can you recount that
absolutely.
for us?
So one of the things that I have unfortunately fallen into when it comes to being a plus size person in Lolita is that when I'm shopping for Lolita, I don't really look at the dress first. I look at the measurements first. So before I even get my hopes up, before I even start to fall in love with the print, I look at the measurements first. I look to see, does it have full back shirring? Will it fit me? Is it easily alterable? These are things that I always consider before I decide whether or not I actually really, really love a dress. And it's a shame. It's really frustrating because, when you're shopping, you want to have that magic experience of just seeing something and falling in love with it, like love at first sight. You see a print, you see a garment, and you absolutely love it. And the challenge that you have as being a plus size person in Lolita is that you have to do it the opposite. But when it comes to Triple Fortune, that is one of the great boons of Triple Fortune as a brand is because they've been doing this from the beginning. So there is no plus size version. There's no, like I said, only maybe one or two of some of the dresses that they've released have not been plus friendly. You
And
really
that's out of
don't.
years
Yeah,
of
out of
releasing dresses.
years. You really don't have that problem with Triple Fortune. You can just look at it and you can just fall in love with it, and you don't have to worry as much about, oh no, did I fall in love with something that's not going to fit me? So it's something that, it really needs to be said about Triple Fortune is that you definitely have the luxury of being able to just look at the garments themselves and then fall in love and then look at the measurements and then confirm that, yeah, this will actually fit me. So next up, a bunch of more French that I'm going to butcher. We have Enchantelic and Chantilly and Atelier Perrault. They are both very, very plus friendly brands. So one of the things that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the stream is that in some of these places, we actually have US retailers that are not the brands themselves, but they are retailers that sell brands in store. So we wanted to put their logo on slides where you would be able to purchase them here in the US, because we know when we get to purchasing, we'll talk a little bit about, some of the pitfalls of buying from Japan and the whole process of overseas shipping and all that good stuff. But if you can buy it here in the United States and you don't have to worry as much about that, it's always a great thing. So we have two different shops that you're going to see their logos pop up on several different slides. So first is Kuroshiro Kawai, and then we have Harajuku Hearts. So Kuroshiro Kawai is based in Houston, Texas, actually specifically Katy, Texas. And then Harajuku Hearts is based out of California. So both are in the United States and easy to shop from. So Enchantelic and Chantilly is carried by KSK. I believe Harajuku Hearts also carries them. And then Harajuku Hearts carries Atelier Perrault with their iconic fully shirred styles. So as you can see on screen, we have a couple of different options that come from these brands. And the real AP, yeah, the real MVP sometimes, let me tell you. So their iconic style is fully shirred. So you've got that full shirring all the way across the waist, which is going to be generally much more plus friendly. One thing to keep in mind, though, is although it is fully shirred, not all shirring is created equally. So some of the dresses, while fully shirred, still only go up to about 110 centimeters. So that is something to always double check the measurements on these brands specifically. One of my favorite features of these two brands is that they offer elastic sleeves, which if you are wearing sleeves, you want them to be comfortable. One of the things you'll notice about what I'm wearing today is these are actually button sleeves, and it's kind of hard to see because I have a terrible sunspot going on. But I actually have to pop the buttons open just to be comfortable in these sleeves. With elastic sleeves, especially generous elastic sleeves, you don't have to worry about that as much. So you're definitely going to be much more comfortable in that style of sleeve. They also have a line, Enchantelic and Chantilly specifically, has a line of what we call any size corsets. So you can see on the screen the front side of the corset belt, and it's basically just a belt and it ties in the back. So it doesn't lace up in the back. It has like waist tie ties and you just tie it in a bow. So it's literally any size. So that is going to fit a very wide range of waist sizes. And it adds that extra element to your waist, especially if you're wearing a fully shirred skirt with a fully shirred waistband. Sometimes you want it to look a little more polished. So adding that waist corset, that corset belt right on top of that is really going to just take it up to the next level. And then I'm going to let Abby take this slide.
Yeah, so Maximum is a Japanese brand. They're mostly sweet Lolita. They do have some classic stuff, but they're mostly known for their genderless sizing options. The large busted, the size large that they have actually just goes up to 110 automatically, just the large. So they go up to 5L, but the thing is that they're very hard for Westerners to buy from since they don't have an international website, nor do they have a storefront in the US yet. But you can buy them through a shopping service. You can browse their website and then, go to, a shopping service that we'll talk about later. And then we also have Millefleurs. Millefleurs you can actually buy from Kuroshiro Kawaii here in the US without the use of a shopping service. Their blouses are fully shirred, and also their sleeves, as you can see, they have the shirring on the sleeves, and they usually go about to 100 to 110 centimeters. And I don't really know much about them because they are classic, and if you don't know me from social media, I'm very OTT sweet. So I just know that Kuroshiro Kawaii would be able to help you with that, and more classic Lolitas would know more about them. But they're a really great brand, and I think one of their designers is actually plus size, so she tries to make things more plus size friendly.
So when we talk about plus size friendly fashion, one of the things that we definitely have to talk about is not just Japanese brands, but also what we consider indie brands or Western brands. And so one of the things that really is the best about some of these brands is that they offer custom sizing. So in this case, we have Lady Sloth, which does plus sizes just out of the box. So their standard sizing includes plus size sizing. And they also offer original print dresses, skirts, blouses, and underskirts. So one of the things that we definitely want to look out for is the blouses there, because they do offer the custom sizing on the blouses. Now, Lady Sloth does typically tend to be a little more on the gothic side. So if that's not necessarily your thing, that's okay. You have Glitter Tail. Glitter Tail is also completely custom. So everything that they make is 100% custom to your measurements. They do offer plus size measuring as well. So I know sometimes when you see custom, it's like custom up to a certain measurement. Glitter Tail is not like that. It's entirely custom to your measurements. And with Glitter Tail, they do offer some of their own original prints, as well as different fabrics that are just ready stock fabrics that are really cute and really pretty, as well as blouses. And they do also offer underskirts. So I know one of the questions that we got asked, and I'm stealing this from our Q&A section, but talking specifically about blouses and what is a good place to get blouses, I would highly recommend Glitter Tail for their blouses. So one thing to keep in mind, though, talking about custom measurements. First and foremost, make sure that you know your measurements really well, that you are double checking them, that you're taking them with whatever undergarments you plan on wearing with that particular outfit. So if you want to be wearing a blouse underneath the dress, you might want to take it on wearing a blouse. If you are planning on wearing like a binder or anything like that, just keep that in mind and make sure that you are doing your measurements with the proper undergarments associated with that. The other thing is to make sure that you know your body measurements, and keep in mind that different custom tailors are going to tailor it a little bit differently. So one thing that has been my experience is that working with Glitter Tail, especially when you give them the measurements, they're expecting that to be your actual body measurements, and they're going to add some for ease. So a lot of times you'll get something that was a little bit bigger than what you mentioned, simply because they're expecting you to give them your actual body measurements. So that is one thing. I know sometimes people like to pad their measurements because you want to make sure that it's comfortable for you. So with Glitter Tail especially, just make sure for the most success, give them your actual body measurements. And Lauren in the chat mentioned that they can take a while because it is all made to order instead of ready stock. So it is one thing to keep in mind. If you're going to get something that is completely custom tailored to you, it is going to take a while. It is going to take time, not only for them to double check your measurements, to communicate with you, but also to actually make the garment and then send it out to you. And Glitter Tail, I know they're based in Asia. I not entirely sure what country, but I know they're based in Asia. And so that is going to add some extra time just shipping from overseas into the United States if you're located here in the United States. And then I think, Tiffany, I think you said that you had some experience as well working with Glittertail.
Yeah, definitely. I've ordered from them more than once. Most recently, I ordered for myself and my husband for our blouses for our wedding. And I just want to say, like, they're super, super communicative. So they were constantly checking in, they were double checking measurements, they were making sure things were the right color, etc. So I have purchased from Lady Sloth and Glittertail, but I was really impressed with like how much Glittertail seemed to care, I guess, about making sure that they had exactly what we needed and what we were looking for.
All right, so just a really quick note about Taobao. There's a lot of different brands that exist on Taobao. If you're not familiar, it's basically like Etsy, but for China. So there's all different stores that make things and post them on Taobao. So we have a list of different, I'll let you guys read it. We have a list of different brands that are plus friendly. The other thing that I want to mention is if you get a copy of these slides, which will be posted on OkashiCon's website, there is a link in here to a plus friendly Taobao list of a whole bunch of Taobao stores that not only some do custom options, but they also tend to be very plus friendly in their sizing. They are not consistent in production because they are very, varied brands that exist, but they're more free to kind of explore fashion. So you might find something that you wouldn't necessarily see in one of the big Japanese brands. Definitely make sure that you double check your measurements on there, that you are trusting the sizing that they post. And each brand will usually tell you in the item description if they are giving you what they expect your body measurements to be or what the actual garment measurements are, because sometimes they'll give you one or sometimes they'll give you the other. And then, of course, we have a few honorable mentions. So I just want to highlight a couple of these. Again, these slides will be available online as well if you want to go into more detail. I really want to talk about Hanuli because they're one of my favorite brands, but unfortunately they are now closed. So you can still find them on secondhand sites. They offer many different sizes up to very plus friendly sizing. So that is something, yeah, rip Hanuli. That's something that you definitely want to look out for if you're watching the different secondhand sites. Another one that I really want to call out is Innocent World. They offer 2 different size versions, but their second size version that they offer typically is also going to be longer. So not only is it a little bit bigger, it's also longer. So if you're tall like me, that's definitely a huge bonus. And now we're on to the Decora Fairy K related, the less exaggerated triangle silhouette. I'm going to hand it over to Abby. Take it away, Abby.
Yeah, so on our first slide here, we have Listen Flavor and Fancy Surprise. Fancy Surprise does have a lot of sizing options, but you do need a swapping service currently because there's no American or Western retailer. They have tights, skirts, shirts, and they all come in multiple sizes, very plus size friendly. I have some friends who own this. Listen Flavor has one size product, but they use their oversized. So if you look for the oversized, larger ones, they'll mostly be around 110 centimeters, but they also can be very plus size friendly. But Listen Flavor you can buy through Harajuku Hearts, and that's their Western shop, and all their measurements on their websites are accurate. And then my favorite Fairy K and Decora brand is AC/DC Rag. Some of their pieces, which are labeled as big or huge, go up to 150 centimeter bust, and starting at 110 centimeter bust. They have international shipping on their website, but you can also buy them physically and or online through KSK Kawaii, which they have products already available right now. I actually own most of these products that are on screen right here. They are really good for everyday wear. They're really comfy. And one of the things that I really love about AC/DC Rag currently is that they have plus size models that they're introducing, which I have some pictures in the slide here. They're trying to promote more plus size friendly models into their brand. We love to see it. And then we have our Western brands, which are Odo Q, Candy Trap, So just some of the Western brands: Oda-Q, Candy Trap, Hard Decor, Miss Octopi. Miss Oda-Q is a Black-owned, non-binary business owned here in Houston, Texas. They have a lot of different styles, mostly of the pastel, but also colorful styles. Their sizing is very inclusive. I have a lot of products from them, and they're really good. Candy Trap is a more newer brand. It's actually owned by Cybergirl on Instagram. It's very decor, very bright colors. I think their sizing right now goes up to 3XL, and it fits really good. It's very accurate to their measurements. Hard Decor you can actually buy at KSK Kawaii as well, and I think they go up to 5L as well. And the Miss Octopi is also owned by a plus size friendly person, and she tries to make her stuff very colorful and plus size friendly. And so that's just really, really awesome of her to do that. So, and then she's really active about like plus size friendly stuff.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to this is that they also offer not just like dresses and
Mhm.
tops, but they do offer pants and shorts and things like that. So if you want to, get your wardrobe fleshed out in all different aspects, some of these brands are really great foundation pieces to have that you can cord many, many different ways.
Oh, I guess I'll take this one up. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the WeGo family. So these particular brands you see quite often in Japan. WeGo is kind of like a casual line, I suppose, but it's very famous in Takeshita Dori. There's 2 or 3 locations in Harajuku alone, and you sometimes see them in some of the bigger malls. They have varied sizing, so sometimes they'll have SML sizing, so you'll just need to check on their website what the particular measurements are. They do a lot of collaborations. So you'll see collaborations with video games, with anime, with other brands like I think Nike and Fila, whatever floats their boat, I suppose. But they're really great for checking out for supplemental fashion pieces. And the reason I wanted to mention them is because they're also part of a family that includes WC. And you can see WC's iconic cardigans that you see quite often and that are people are always on the lookout for, especially for like Fairy K and Decora and whatnot. Basically, WC is like their cute daughter. They also have a location on Takeshita Dori and promote a lot of Decora, Fairy K, etc. This is also home to Ida bags. So where Ida bags started becoming like popular and being sold was actually over at WC. And then finally, they do have a plus size brand. So Punyas is modeled after the plus size model, and they gave her basically the space to promote and produce her own brand. So there are locations in several different malls for Punyas as well. It's an actual plus size daily wear brand, but of course that means there are a lot of items that you can incorporate into different styles such as Decora or Fairy K or whatnot. The waist is usually just under 100 or so, but again, you'll have to check the measurements and it varies based on the pants or the skirt or whatnot. And then the bust is around 110, 120. So again, that's something that you'll need to check. They do have multiple sizing, just like WeGo does as well. And it's just another great fashion to use for supplemental, or if you're interested in seeing those collaborations, you'll see them at Punyas as well.
And then a couple of honorable mentions. So I'll let Tiffany chime in here, but I just wanted to really throw out that a lot of these, again, are going to be indie brands that you can find great sizing for. And my favorite, Kawaii Goods, is really good for tights and made-to-order apparel. So that's another really great place to get legwear if you are looking for plus-friendly legwear. Take it away, Tiffany.
Sure. You can see the honorable mentions there, so I'm not going to go over literally every single one, but and obviously there are more. These are just the ones that we wanted to share that we love and we want to promote and we know have plus size options. Talking about Kawaii Goods, Puvithiel, And some of the other brands that have already been mentioned, such as Miss Octopi and Otaku, these are also brands that have things that are for Yame and Yume Kawaii. So for those other decorative styles that are bright and colorful and fun, you can see a lot of made-to-order options for that as well. I wanted to give a shout out to Spins. It's very similar to WeGo, and it's a little harder to purchase from online. But what's really nice about Spins is, aside from their casual wear and whatnot, they always have an indie corner. So at all of their locations, you'll be able to see them promote independent Japanese designers. And 95% of the time, those designers are going to fall within these ranges of fashion, whether it be accessories or dresses or shirts or whatever they're producing. So they're often going to be like bright and colorful and playful as well. If y'all want to say anything else about any of the other brands, y'all are welcome to. Oh, are we ready to move on?
We are ready to move
Okay,
on.
cool. We'll move on. So I guess I'll take it from here. Thank y'all so much for everything y'all have input. Obviously, if you want to chime in as well as I did, you're welcome to do so. So on the previous slide was just different brands. Oh, can we go back to the previous slide if it's okay?
We can.
Regarding Otome, Morike, CPK, and related. Obviously, here you're going to see fewer brands, and we'll get into that very shortly. Go to the next one now. Thank you. So first, I wanted to talk about Otome. So obviously, you can see two different silhouettes. And when we originally showed Otome in our earlier slides, we were saying, okay, you're often going to see a rectangular silhouette. And in history, that's been true. So Otome has been around for quite a while. I want to say since the 1960s or 70s. Like it's been around for a while. And because of that, it often had the rectangular silhouette that you see on the left with the Jane Marple OP. You'd see like 60 silhouettes that were either layered or were just kind of flat sitting on the body, kind of like that almost sack look. But obviously with all fashions and with Otome as well, things evolve, things change, and Otome has begun to take on, especially in the newer brands like Le Getter, which you see on the right, a more Lolita silhouette. So you're going to see a wider silhouette. Does that mean that people are normally wearing petticoats with Otome? No, but I don't want you to be under the impression that if I add a petticoat, it's automatically Lolita. You can style it in different ways that does make it as part of the Lolita style or the Lolita fashion. But generally speaking, as it's worn and as it's promoted, you're not going to see the same drama and poof and silhouette that you see in Lolita. Yeah. So the first brand I wanted to talk about was Emily Temple Cute. This is probably the one that I wear the most often because it's easily accessible, especially on the secondhand market, and there's a lot of shirring options. So you can see on the right side there that the full shirring, which is a little rare but does exist all the way on the left, is 125 centimeters, so quite wide. And then the full back shirring JSKs are usually around 110, and the full back shirring OPs are usually around 110 as well. So it does vary to a slight degree. There's been a few JSKs that were made recently that had full back shirring that only went up to 98, but it's honestly pretty rare. For the most part, if it's full back shirred, it's probably going to fit if you are around 110 or less. Another great thing about Emily Temple Cute is that it has great pricing secondhand. Susie has mentioned that the cardigans that she has for Emily Temple Cute fit really well for plus size. One thing I do want to say, though, is I wouldn't recommend the bottoms. So if you're looking at their fully shirred skirts, well, to a degree, and if you're looking at their fully shirred shorts, they're probably not going to fit because in order for them to get to your waist, they do have to go over your hips. So that is usually an issue that comes up depending on the item.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out is that the cardigans themselves tend to be pretty plus friendly. Of course, it is a little hit or miss, right? So sometimes they'll be on the smaller side, sometimes they'll be on the larger side, depending on how they're intended to be styled. Sometimes they're kind of intended to be a little bit larger. But the cutsos, ooh man, the cutsos are not very plus size friendly at all. I made that mistake. Toast Ham posted in the chat too. I made the mistake thinking, oh, these cardigans are just so wonderful and they fit me so great. And cutsos generally are plus size friendly and they're wonderful, right? So etc cutso, what could go wrong? And yeah, it's absolutely tiny. So that is one thing I'd say is kind of watch out, maybe steer clear from their cutsos. But if you're in the 110 range, or a little bit below 110, then the cardigans are definitely going to fit you just fine. And then if you're above that, some of their cardigans are intended to be a little bit kind of like, I don't want to say baggy because that sounds bad, but they're intended to be a little more flowy. So those cardigans are definitely very friendly.
Okay, so I'm going to blow through some of the otome. You can see a lot of the information here, but with Jade Marple being one of the big otome brands, there is a learning curve on figuring out what does or doesn't fit you because they do vary in their sizing. But generally, you can often fit full back shirring, but it just depends there. For Lehrgetter, they're definitely something that is more consistent as similar to ETC. So if you see a dress that is fully back shirred for Lehrgetter, it's often going to fit if you're under 110 or so. Definitely choose the JSK over the OP for otome if you're plus size. And a big reason for that is going to be like the arms and the shoulder length. So even if it does end up fitting you in other places, it is often made to fit a little smaller. And unfortunately, otome brands seem to be on a bit of a learning curve with the international market as well. So they aren't being quite as thoughtful as like, say, Meta or some of the Lolita brands are. You can go to the next one. Thank you. So I did want to take a moment to talk about Access Femme. So you have Access Femme, and then you have like their kind of, I guess, not brands, but lines, I suppose, called Poetique and Kawaii. So on the left side, you're going to see an Access Femme dress. You could call it a JSK, but often it's promoted as a two-way, so you can wear it as a skirt or as a dress. These are very plus size friendly, around 115 or so, but it does vary. So often you'll see Access Femme, especially all over the secondhand market on like Closet Child. Trust the measurements, like trust what you see there. And definitely if it says that it's smaller fitting, don't say, wait, but Tiffany told me in this, no, trust them, because Access Femme has been around for quite a while and is not necessarily a daily wear brand, but of all the brands we've mentioned today is probably worn the most often in Japan in terms of like they're in most malls. It's not seen as like an outside fashion necessarily. It's just a feminine brand. So definitely like there are all different kinds of cuts and styles. So there is a learning curve there and just trust the measurements that you see. You can purchase Access Femme directly from their website. So they do have an international site that you can use. So they're super easy to get. I do recommend checking out their Kawaii and Poetique lines just because they're going to be more Lolita leaning if you're going for that. They're more feminine. They have a longer shelf life, like they'll last a little bit longer and they're a little higher quality. But of course, with that, they're a little more expensive. I think that's good. Yeah, that's good.
One too many there. Sorry.
It's okay. So I want to take a moment just to discuss the idea behind CPK and Mori. The question here is it brand or is it vintage? And similar to like Grimoire and Dolly K, CPK was born out of a vintage shop called the Virgin Mary. So I don't want to make this like a little J Fashion 101 panel or anything like that, but I do have to explain that these fashions are born out of vintage ideas and styles and putting those ideas together to form a cohesive coordinate or look. And that particular look comes out of a merging of those brands and those vintage styles. So both the person on the right wearing Mori and myself on the left wearing CPK, we're both wearing Japanese fashion pieces and we're both wearing vintage pieces. They've been mixed together to complete that particular look. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So that being said, are there Mori brands? Yes. So at its height, Wonder Rocket was basically the go-to place for Mori. They were everywhere. Like on Takeshita Dori alone in, I want to say 2014, there were like 3 shops. They were all over the place. But sadly, they have died. So you can still find them secondhand. Favorite is a brand that you can purchase online and that is promoting Mori. Favorite's pieces are on the right. So you can see that they look very similar to what Wonder Rocket was promoting on the left. And their sizing generally goes up to 105 and does have different sizing. So LL, for example, they don't just stop at SML or have 1 or 2 sizes. So they do go up. You'll just have to look at the measurements on the website for Favorite. Dear Lee is the probably most prominent and longest lasting and consistent brand on Taobao that I would recommend for anything regarding Mori. They do have all different kinds of styles there, but generally their aesthetic tends to come back around in this direction. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. So taking a moment to talk about CPK. So obviously, like I said earlier, CPK is born out of a vintage store, which is the Virgin Mary. It basically is something where you take a blank canvas, like a single colored dress or something like that, usually white or an off-white color, and then you layer it in different ways. So maybe you layer it with different fabrics, different textures, different colors, and you create some kind of theme regarding that. So for example, in my theme today is like vintage pearls. So I put pearls all over myself and I've got pearls in what I'm wearing. And I made sure to wear the particular makeup that is super iconic to CPK, and you'll see similar ideas in it in Mori, in Yami Kawaii, and in oh no, wait, that one's different. Never mind. Okay, but yeah. So in Japan, it's a little easier to shop because, for example, Kinji is a vintage store and they have an entire section devoted to CPK. So they've already put it together for you, which you can see in the photo there. But when you're shopping at home or when you're shopping online, it's best to go to the next slide. Yeah, it's best to just shop local. You can go to vintage stores. You can go to the antique malls. A lot of the bigger cities have them. Sometimes even in suburbs, you'll see them. Savers, Goodwill, like a lot of the pieces, all the pieces I think on the left I got from Goodwill or the antique mall here in Austin. So it's really just a matter of taking the ideas and putting something together to create the look or the coordinate. I do want to give a shout out to Olive de Solive, which is a Japanese like casual brand. A lot of their clothing is actually Moriable, I guess you could say. So they're also plus size just by the distinction of often these shapes are rectangular and kind of hang on the body in general. So when you're layering in CPK and Mori, often those particular pieces are going to be wider by the nature of the fashion itself. So the reason I like to argue and point out that these two styles are plus size is because you are creating the look from what you can find and from what you see, either at a vintage store or at a antique mall or at Goodwill, or if you find some of the clothing that's secondhand. Again, like I said, it's already wide, so it will often fit you because of the way that it hangs on the body. So I like to promote these two styles because it really relies on just you creating the look. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've made it through all of our recommendations and notes on the different brands. And so now we are moving on to the next section, which is purchasing. So we're just going to kind of quickly talk about different ways that you can purchase and find Lolita fashion. Sorry, J fashion. I'm going to do that this entire panel. I apologize. J fashion in general. So one of the things that you need to know is, we talked about it this entire time, know your measurements. Make sure that you know your body measurements and check them against references. Use reference sites, use reviews, use the community at large. There is actually a whole Facebook group for plus size J fashion, and you can actually go in there and ask them, hey, what is this measurement? Or do you own this do you own this garment? Will it fit me? That sort of thing. So make sure that you are always checking those references. When you're looking at the pictures of the items, the stock photos themselves, keep in mind that stock photos lie. They are not always the most truthful. They can lie not only about the shape of the garment, because they might use a smaller dress form versus a larger dress form, or they might lie about the color or the way that it's going to look in person. So when we talk about stock photos, make sure that you're always taking them with a grain of salt. And if you can find actual worn photos, that's usually a better indicator. When you're looking at garments, you want to look at the shape, check the cut and the overall shape of the garment. How is it going to fit you vertically as well as horizontally? And make sure that it's going to help you achieve the look when it comes to the silhouette. And then last but not least, this is something that I've fallen a trap many a time, is that just because it fits you doesn't mean that you should buy it. I'm going to say it again. Just because it fits you doesn't mean that you should buy it. Sometimes if you're not absolutely in love with the outfit or the piece and you see that it fits you, you're going to want to impulse buy it. Wait until you find things that you absolutely love. Wait until you find things that not only fit you horizontally, but are also going to look good on you and fit you vertically and are adjustable with the adjustable straps if that's a concern for you, or they they have a better silhouette for you. Make sure that you're thinking about all these things when you're making your purchases. Couple of different places that you can purchase garments for J fashion. Number one, we talked a little bit about Taobao. There are also resellers that resell Taobao items to you. They're typically more expensive if you buy them from resellers. So I always say buy from Taobao direct if you are comfortable with doing that. But resellers are a great way to purchase if you definitely want to just have the easiest process. There's also secondhand markets, Lace Market and K Market. With these, again, they're all secondhand, so someone who owns it is listing it for sale. They may put the measurements on there. Most of the time, they're just relying on different references, so you can always ask them further questions if you're not quite sure if the measurements are accurate. You can definitely find sites on the individual brand sites. So, if you find a brand that you absolutely love, you can shop from those brands direct. If the brands are located overseas, then you may need a shopping service. We have several listed on the page that you can rely on for overseas shopping. There's also secondhand in Japan. Both Wonderwelt and Closet Child can be purchased from directly without the help of a shopping service. And they have different ways of measuring. So keep in mind when you're looking at the measurement that they are doing them by hand. With Closet Child especially, they do flat measurements. They don't do like all the way around measurements. So they're prone to human error. They're not always going to be accurate. Double check them against Low Library or Low Libre. I don't even know how to say it anymore.
No,
now
you're
you
good.
confuse me.
I'm sorry.
No worries. And then last but not least, we have some auction sites. So, if you're looking at different auction sites, there is the American eBay, which, try to stay away from because it's not always going to have the best quality stuff on there. But then there's Yahoo Japan is another great auction auction site. Frill and Mercari are other good places to check out. Those are all going to be typically secondhand that you can buy from Japan using a shopping service. And I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't also mention once again, Kuroshiro Kawai and Harajuku Hearts are both located here in the United States. So if you want to purchase from the US direct, those are definitely options where you can purchase all of your J fashion needs.
Before you go, I do want to point out that it looks like Lauren posted sometimes Depop comes through, and I have seen a lot of people in terms of not necessarily Lolita, but in other substyle or other J fashions and various substyles, like some amazing things that people just say, "Oh yeah, I found it on Depop." So definitely consider Depop and check that out. I haven't personally used it, but I know many people who have used it and trusted it. And I did want to say really quick, I know it says that on there that brand sites not always have accurate sizing, and that's definitely true, and it's definitely not changed for quite a while. There are some brand sites where they will just show like what their preferred measurement is, not necessarily how much wider it goes or how far the shirring will go. So consider, especially when something's just coming out, like talking to people who have purchased it and whatnot to figure out what those actual measurements are. And that being said, sometimes Lolaberry does just copy the brand measurement. So sometimes Lolaberry is not accurate for that reason too. You got to talk to your community. So please make sure that if you're ever like second guessing, there are so many people out there that you can talk to. J Fashion is a very like close-knit community that is full of resources. Thanks.
Amen to that. So now we want to talk a little bit about modifications. Now, this is not a how to alter panel. So we're not going to go like into details about exactly how these alterations are done. But as kind of a last resort, sort of, if you find an item that you just absolutely love and you have to have it and you have to have it on your body, but it doesn't quite actually fit your body, you can alter it. I really want to say here that there is a stigma sometimes in the community where people say, you know, oh, it's a collectible, so you shouldn't change anything. You shouldn't destroy it. And by altering it, you're somehow destroying it. And I want to just like stop that. I want to slap every single person that says that, because that is absolutely not true at all. If you purchase the item, it is yours to do with as you please. You can do whatever you want with it. You could turn it into a throw pillow if you wanted to. I probably would be a little sad if you did that, but you can absolutely do that. And you can definitely alter it to make it fit you a little bit better. Even if you're just doing small, tiny alterations, please do not be afraid to change the garment to fit you, because the whole point of it being a piece of clothing is to be worn. And if you're worried about secondhand sales, if you're worried about like reselling it, I can tell you for a fact, this particular lovely dress right here, I actually bought this already altered because this is one of my all-time dream dress prints. This is Crystal Dream Carnival, by the way, by Angelic Pretty. And it's one that I was never going to fit into, and I would have had to alter it myself. And I just so happened to find it online already altered, and I snatched it up like that. So there is a huge market of people that are willing to pay good money for dresses like this that have already been altered, especially if you do them well or take them to a professional. So the first thing that we can talk about is alterations that aren't necessarily big. There's kind of small alterations, and they can be done without actually permanently altering the garment. So number one is if you're tall, and if you have, the straps that you want to adjust the way that the bodice is going to fit on you vertically, you can add strap extensions. You can buy pre-made strap extensions, you can make your own, or you can just simply adjust where the button is. And I think Tiffany has an example of that.
Candy, can you zoom in on me? Thank you. So I have two ETC dresses here that are fully back shirred, but what the difference is that the strap is attached. So there's no way that I can alter this unless I added fabric like you see in the slides there. So that makes it kind of tricky for this fully back shirred ETC dress. However, I can do the bare minimum, and I can just simply move a button here on this ETC dress that is fully back shirred. So the button was about up here, and all I did was move it right here, and now it fits so much better. You would think it would not make that much of a difference, but you can do that on your JSKs in Lolita or in Otome, and sometimes that's all you need. Thanks.
One other option that you can do is if you find that your straps are too short and you just need a really temporary fix, you can actually just take them if they're adjustable, so removable like Tiffany was showing you. You can take them and you can actually just tie them around your back or safety pin them around the back of your neck, just like a halter. You can also physically turn them into a halter if you prefer that style, which you definitely have the option of doing. But that is also a really quick way to make it sit just a little bit lower so that it fits a little bit better. Now, of course, sometimes you need to do more than just a little bit of an alteration. So this is where we want to talk about permanent alterations. So permanent alterations are definitely an option. Again, it's your dress, it's your garment. Do with it what you will. So there are a couple of different ways to do this. Primarily when we're talking about JSKs, which are typically the easiest to alter, there's a few different ways that you can just simply add to your bodice. You can add on the side or you can add on the back. So Candy, if you could please zoom in. And I will show you. So I am wearing an altered piece, and it might be a little hard to tell, but there is a seam right here. Now, so I didn't personally alter this, by the way. I got it done by a professional because I am not that good, but it is pretty seamless. But you can see the seam that goes right here, and all we did was just add a little bit of fabric from the waist tie to the bodice. You can also harvest fabric from the pocket. So if you don't know, a lot of times the pockets are lined with the actual like fabric of the dress. If all you need is just like a couple of centimeters, instead of using the waist ties, you can also use the pockets. And then another option is if you have the shirring panel in the back, you can take out the entire shirring panel, which was what was done on this particular garment, and you can replace it with a coordinating fabric. So this is a different fabric, obviously, than the print of the dress, but it matches the fabric. And then you can just turn this into a much larger panel than what was originally there. And now all of a sudden this dress fits. Thank you, Candy. You can zoom back out now. One other major alteration that you definitely have the option of doing is turning any JSK into a skirt. So I'm going to let Tiffany talk about her experience with that.
Oh, yeah, sure. So basically, the JSK 2 version of the baby dress that you see there, I wanted to be my wedding dress, and I looked for it for 2 years and could not find it. But I did find the JSK 1 version, and I just thought, you know, whatever. I love it. I'm going to make it mine. It's going to be mine forever. So I just altered it and made it a skirt. And then I used the extra fabric from it's like a high-waisted skirt. So I used the extra fabric that I cut off to do the lining for the inside of the high waist so that the fabric was stiffer and stayed straight. And I could also use the rest of it for making like a small accessory bow and whatnot. So it is, I guess, taking the plunge, but if it's something you love, like, it shouldn't matter. It's for you. It's your dress. It's yours. So do what makes you happy.
And I just want to say to everyone out there who doesn't think that altering is not good, like, everyone who knows me, everyone who follows me on social media knows that every single one of my dresses have been altered to fit me. And I don't see any problem. It does not decrease the value because there are other girls and other people who will buy these dresses already pre-altered. So just do what you want with your dress. It's your dress. I didn't pay $300 for a dress for not to wear it just because, you know, someone says it's going to decrease the values. I'm very heatful about this subject. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, we all definitely have very strong beliefs here that, you know, if you want to wear it, you can wear it. Now, one thing I will say is if it is already a very, very small piece, like let's say the bust size is 95 centimeters and your bust size is like 125, you may have trouble altering with just the waist ties or something like that. You might have to get creative. One creative way to do that is actually to split the skirt down the back and add a bustle panel, just like you would see on a dress that comes with a back bustle. So there's ways. So I just want to say that there are definitely ways to get through alterations if that's something that you are interested in doing. And as I mentioned before, if you're not very good, like I'm mediocre at sewing and I don't want to trust myself with trying to alter any of my dresses, you can absolutely take it to a professional. Talk to your community members where you live, and they might be able to recommend somebody that's good in that area. So real quick, just a couple of brands. I'll let you guys read these off the screen, but these are definitely brands that you definitely want to, maybe avoid if you are not looking to alter pieces, because they just typically are not going to have the size that you're looking for when you're looking for plus friendly fashion. And then a couple of honorable mentions. So just typical styles that we haven't already talked about that you might see out there. We mentioned a little bit about Yume and Yami Kawaii. Gyaru is another big fashion style that is very popular. So there are definitely brands out there for whatever J fashion style that you are into. Again, these slides will be available if you want to go into more depth on any of these. Last but not least, we do have one final slide. This is a bonus slide on a couple of photo tips. So we are running a little short on time, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough time for Q&A. So I'm just going to quickly sum up this slide. Here, it's really all about posing. One of the things that you want to make sure that you are doing is posing in a way that not only feels natural and flattering to you, but maybe has a little bit of dynamic movement with your limbs, making sure that you are keeping your posture really nice, making sure that you are doing something with your legs that gives you that elongation of your legs, which makes them look a little bit on the slimmer side, as well as making sure that they flatter the position. So a couple of examples on screen of some really awesome poses. Woo, we made it, guys. So thank you guys so much for bearing with us through all of our content that we wanted to give you guys today. I hope you guys learned a couple of things with the content that we had prepared for you. And next up, we are ready to take questions for Q&A.
We did have some friends actually submit questions to our Google form that we posted on Facebook. So I'd love to take a moment to just go over those few questions. It looks like one of them is, which is better suited for plus size girls, OP, JSK, cutsew, or skirt?
JSK.
I will let our Lolita expert take it away, Susie.
So in general, I'm going to say JSK. I mentioned it earlier that JSKs are typically easier to alter, but they also tend to be more plus friendly, just because JSKs are going to be where you're going to get that shirring, especially the full shirring if you're looking for something that is shirred all the way around. Another really important thing about JSKs is that they do have straps versus like full sleeves. And if you are on the plus size side, typically your shoulder measurements and your arm measurements are also going to be on the plus size side. So OPs are typically not going to be made with that in mind. And you're going to really struggle. Even if you fit in the bust, you might really struggle with the shoulders. You might really struggle with the vertical position of where the dress hits you. So I highly recommend to stick with JSKs. That being said, there are a lot of options. We talked about a few different indie brands that do plus sizes. Their OPs typically are going to be plus friendly because they know that not only do they have to make them bigger horizontally, but they also have to make them bigger vertically and kind of size up the pattern that they have. So those are good options if you're really in love with OPs, if you want something that's a little more on the plus friendly. Skirts are also a great option. A lot of skirts are going to be completely fully shirred all the way around. So those are typically easy to find as well. I like JSKs simply because I find that blouses don't always fit my bodice all the way down, right? So sometimes especially if I'm wearing like a cutso or something like that, it kind of hits me like right above where I would want it to hit me. They're not always going to be the length that I need to work well with a skirt, and I personally find skirts a little more challenging to cord.
I
So
agree.
yeah, they're because you have to have the right blouse to go with it. It's not just about, what the blouse looks like on the top, it's also what the blouse looks like on the bottom. And it's not always the easiest to find that right pairing. So I would say stick with JSKs, especially if you're a beginner. And that's going to be probably your best friend. And then from there, move on to plus size intended OPs, skirts, and go nuts.
I do want to add to that. I feel like the skirt issue is definitely, at least for me personally, when you have a wider bust and the Lolita skirt comes to your natural waist, there's not a lot of space that goes between your natural space or your natural waist and your wider bust. So oftentimes you end up looking shorter, and it doesn't elongate you the way that a JSK might. So I hands down agree that if you're in the plus size range, that a JSK is going to be probably your best bet.
Yeah, one tip that I would have if you are on the plus size side and you really love skirts and you want to work with skirts is cardigans. Cardigans are going to kind of help give you that visual breakup between the blouse and the skirt. And it's going to give you a little bit, especially if it's fully closed, it's going to give you a little bit of that visual space between where you see like the peak of the blouse where the cardigan's coming together, and then you have that cardigan. So having that visual distinction of, it's almost like visual layers, right? So you've got like the blouse, and then you've got your cardigan, and then you've got your skirt. That is going to help kind of elongate your torso section, and that's going to really help you cord it a little bit better if you really want to do the skirt option.
Another question that we got, hopefully we answered in the panel, but we can add maybe a little bit to it if we like. What is the best place to find plus size Lolita pieces? I think we answered this mostly, but if you want to shout out maybe your favorite place to find plus size, let's do that.
Ooh, boy. So I'll probably gonna have to go with Taobao. Like, I know it is kind of the underdog almost in the Lolita spectrum because everybody's after the Japanese brands, but I really like that Taobao brands, especially my favorite Taobao brand, which is Yolanda. They offer a lot of very plus friendly sizing, and the way that their bodices are done tend to be a little more on the plus size friendly, along with the skirts. You can find longer skirts sometimes. So I don't know. I'm just a huge Taobao stan, even though I love AP.
How about you, Abby?
Like I'm the exact same as Susie. I'm with Taobao all the way. I mean, this blouse I'm wearing right here is Taobao. Almost all my blouses are Taobao. The only other blouses I really enjoy are Glitter Tail and my Lady Sloth blouse.
Awesome.
I love top blouses. Those are my favorite.
Awesome. That's actually moving into our next question, the best place to find plus size blouses. So just talking about blouses specifically, what's your go-to?
My go-to specifically is Taobao. I do deep dives on Taobao. I don't even know what brand this blouse is because this was like only the one of like 5 items they sold were these blouses. But like if you're looking for blouses, you can hit me up and I have a bunch of links. But I know Onegai Shop is a new plus size friendly Taobao shop and brand store. They sell a lot of blouses that are plus size friendly. So if you're looking for those, I would definitely go on those. But Lady Sloth, her blouses are really good too. Her crop top blouses, and they come almost in every color. She does any custom color of chiffon. So if you're looking for a very specific color, very specific shade of pink, she will find it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just 2 other Taobao recommendations for blouses. I already mentioned Yolanda, but Sweet is it Sweet Dreamer is another one. Sometimes they have some blouses on there that are the stretchy kind, so those are good. I did have a link in the Taobao slide for Lolita that is a spreadsheet of Taobao stores in plus size friendly. So not only does it list the actual link to the store, but it'll tell you kind of an idea of what the max bust measurement is. So if you're looking for a specific bust measurement, it's going to tell you, yes, it's 110 or up to 120 or, 105 or whatever the case might be, as well as whether or not they do custom. So that's really my go-to resource is I just go to that sheet and I just like go down the list and look for blouses and try to find ones that fit whatever the style or the color or the aesthetic is that I'm looking for that particular day.
Awesome. I guess I'll add, like, I don't go on Taobao that often, so just I guess for another perspective, I lurk like hell on Closet Child, so I am always checking Closet Child every single day, and I've been getting a lot of blouses recently from Another Angelus, which I think is more so like a casual, like feminine wear brand. And a lot of their blouses are going up to like 115. But again, it's just like trusting the measurements that are on Closet Child in that regard. But the one that I'm wearing right now, which has like super cute collar and everything, I got from there. I got another one that's like old school. So there's a lot of different options, but I agree that there are great options on Taobao as well.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in with the full cotton cutso. So that's what I'm wearing today is actually an AP cutso, and it's full cotton, so it's like 100% cotton. There's no bib or anything like that. It is very, very stretchy. They're very hit or miss though, depending on the styling of the cutso. So again, talk to people who own it, get measurements, get your references. But that is another really good option, and they're very comfortable if you live in a hot, like if you're in Texas and it's hot. Cotton is always a hit. So I just want to shout out the cutsos as well.
So we have a couple more questions. These we can go through, I guess, pretty quickly. I want to ask just two of mine just to kind of point out that pants are cool. One of them is, what are fashions that can be worn plus size that involve pants or shorts? And where can they be purchased? I just kind of wanted to shout out, like, not all of these fashions require skirts and dresses. So, like, it's totally okay if you want to wear pants and shorts. I know that Abby can speak to ACDC Rag regarding bottoms that are plus size friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually own a pair of plus size friendly bottoms from ACDC Rag. They're extremely stretchy. They're samurai cut pants as well as like they're oversized, like big, like like
the harem style pants.
Yeah, the harem pants. Yeah, they're really big and
those are fun.
They go up to like 100-centimeter waist almost. Like they stretch a lot, and they're just super comfy because of the material that they're made out of. So I really like those. And also, we own a lot of Oda Q sweatpants, and then we also recently just bought a pair of Hard Decor shorts. Those are really nice too. They're really airy and breathy, so those are good too.
Yeah, and if you're more into the fancy side of things, like I am, I'm tend to be more less casual and more like Lolita and OG. So if you're into OG, Fan Plus Friend is always a good option. They do custom sizing. They tend to be more of the like steampunk and mature and gothic side of things. So if you're looking for that styling, they definitely have pants that you can custom tailor, which is always awesome.
I guess just to add to that, I want to shout out, even though it has since passed on, a lot of Putumayo's bottoms, shorts, pants, whatnot, were either fully back shirred or were fully shirred. So a lot of those can fit much wider waists. Another thing is, if you're looking into getting into Mori, part of the rectangular shape is using pants or using baggy pants in order to pull off that look. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Millie Fleur. So they have some really quality, really high quality bloomers and undergarments in terms of hoop skirts and whatnot, and those fit much wider as well. if there's nothing else, let's ask the question, what is your most surprising find as a plus-size J fashion enthusiast? Over to Susie.
Oh my gosh. So probably my most surprising find is there was an AP blouse that so I have not always been an AP stan. For a while there, I avoided AP because I thought that, especially blouses, like I didn't even look at them because I was like, oh man, they're not plus size friendly at all, and I didn't even look at any of their items. So then one day they dropped a blouse that was completely fully sheared, like all the way around. And it has a really pretty top. And they actually have quite a few of them in different styles. But they had this nice like princess sleeve that went along with it. And yeah, I was absolutely shocked that it goes up. I want to say it goes up to like 120 centimeters for a blouse from AP that is princess style. So it's very dressy. You can wear it in a very formal OTT look that you have. I love it so much. I bought 2 different colors, and it's like my go-to.
Nice. How about you, Abby?
I think it was one of my first dresses. I didn't realize that you could alter stuff. Like I did when I was a baby Lolita, and I was on Lace Market, and someone was selling their Sugary Carnival set with a pony purse, the JSK, the head bow, the socks, and a couple other things for like $500, which is like ridiculously cheap now, like for a pony purse and Sugar Carnival. And they're like, yeah, I altered it, and that's when I realized like I could alter things. And then I remember I went to my first I think I asked y'all. It was like we were sitting at that one place, Susie, and I was like, so how do y'all feel about altering? And everyone's just like, we don't care.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
What an empowering moment for sure.
Yeah, that was my most surprising find. Other than that, like my most surprising find is like deep diving like on Mercari and being like, finding Toy Parade head bow, the 2013 release in pink, because that was my crowning moment because I had to deep dive for that, and I finally got it.
What about you, Tiffany?
Let's see. Probably my favorite, I guess, plus size related moments. I was shopping overseas and I was in the Kera shop and they had Mary Magdalene, which is my absolute favorite brand. I have admired like for quite a while the styles and the cuts and everything being so gorgeous and pretty to look at. And it wasn't until I was there physically in the corner pulling the back of the dress to see how far the shirring went that I realized I had found at least one Mary Magdalene dress that would actually fit me. So I grabbed that pretty fast. And after having more conversations actually with people in my community, I learned that there are a total of maybe 4 whole dresses in the time that Mary Magdalene has existed that they've actually made that would fit a 110 centimeter bust or so. So that was like so eye-opening and it made me so happy. But yeah.
Yeah, what a great find for sure.
If there are no other questions, it looks like we have reached the end of our time.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank y'all all so much for coming. This was really, really fun. And I look forward to bringing more Japanese fashion content to OkashiCon's Twitch. I am looking for people in the community. I am looking for suggestions. These 2 wonderful ladies joined me this time. It would be great to be you next time. You can hit me up anytime, and I would love to bring you to our Twitch or to bring even just your ideas of what you'd like to see. Would be so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring us the ideas, bring us the thoughts, questions afterwards. Please, send them to OkashiCon and we can answer through there. And I hope you guys learned a little something about plus size for J fashion enthusiasts. And we hope to see you guys next time.
Thank you so much. And a big shout out to Abby and Susie. Thank you for being amazing and doing this panel. Yes. I had so much fun.
Yes,
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.